The season was towards the end. We planned the exclusive JDM finale. That's when we really hit problems. 2 days before the event, he said to me, "Connor, we've got a problem. If he says he's got a problem, we've got a problem." This was the final hour. People had already prepped their cars for the show, so they're not waiting to prep their cars. They're done. They're going to bed, getting an early night to wake up in the morning. I was having a meeting with the police, debating whether it could go ahead. So we approached Sam, the owner of the pub that we're currently sat in, to talk about hosting a small-scale but high-quality car show here. It's a lovely, lovely place. It's right next to the river. It's got ample space to take care of 50-plus cars, which is what we did. We branded it as the Invitational. We'd done a small-scale video shoot before that, but nothing major. So this really was huge for us. Again, as much as it was small to us, it could have been 5,000 cars to us. That's what it felt like. For us, as a small car club coming out and hosting a show that a lot of people with some incredible cars that have been in the scene for a lot of years were saying, "That was amazing, please do this again." What more can you possibly ask for? People absolutely loved it. It was an incredible day. The sun was out, the barbecue was on, the merchandise store was up. We had some very, very special cars here. We had both generation of Honda NSX, the brand new one, and the Mark 1. I'd never seen those two cars parked together. We had Skylines here from 32, 33, 34 and 35 GTR all lined up. We had a couple of generations of Evos here. We had the brand new Supra, which again, July this year, it was still early days to see one of those. Not many people had seen them. So again, 50 cars, but a lot of those cars were very, very special. We had a Millennium Jade R34 GTR R1 here. I believe it's a Nurspec 2 R1. I think that's the only one ever made in Millennium Jade, and it was recently valued at £500,000, and we had that here for our first ever show. That was just incredible. I hadn't even heard of the R1 edition of that car before we hosted this show, and he came out and said, "Oh, I've got this, can I come?" And to think that person with such a rare, such a valuable car that most people in the country hadn't even seen before had approached us to say, "Hi, can I come to your event?" It was like, that's incredible. That just does not happen. And it really made us realize that other people were seeing the vision we had for this high quality club. And it was really starting to progress through people, and it was starting to pick up ground, like I say. So yeah, we came away from the Invitational event just in such high spirits, with like a real buzz about what we were able to do with the rest of the year. As much as it has been an incredibly difficult year, we were just going to take what we had and just run with it and just do as much as we possibly could. And we did. So after the Invitational, a month later, we secured some land 5 to 10 minutes away from here. It was perfect. It had been offered to us for our first show, but we said, you know what, let's take baby steps. We don't want to go too big too soon. Let's just make sure that we're on the right tracks. We said, let's brand it as the 100 event. So we're doubling the attendance that we had from our first show. So it's still substantial, but we're not trying to be too big too soon and make out that we're something that we're not. So we went ahead with the 100 event, gated area, completely private, members only. We had 100 cars for that one. We capped it at 100, so we could have essentially sold more. In fact, no, sorry, we did do 120. We put another 20 tickets on after the first 100 sold, and then we capped it and just said, look, we want to just stick at this number just to make sure it's organised well. We had the marquee up again, the barbecue was on, the merchandise store, the DJ was there. We had Akira brand, the Japanese orientated detailing stand, they were there. Again, we then had 120 people coming to us after that saying, again, this is fantastic, this is like nothing we've ever been to before. We actually had a second R1, R34 GTR turn up. So again, we were pulling in not only the same incredibly rare, incredibly expensive cars, but more of them. We had the Nissan Pals, the Japanese K cars. They'd been imported in the country over the last 30 years. They'd never had a club stand before. They ended up having a stand of 5 Pals, which was great because the Pal owners are lovely people. They're so nice. And they'd never really gotten together before. They sat and chatted all day that day. They were the last ones to leave. Even the cars that were trailered to the event went away before the power owners left because they were just so happy to see each other and discuss their cars. They're incredibly rare cars, so you can't really talk in detail about them very often. So yeah, again, it was a little community that we brought together through ours, and that was so nice to see. Coming away from that, they were incredibly happy. Everyone else was. The feedback we got was just, to get a good feedback of that scale was just not something we ever expected. A lot of the time people will criticize very easily, but to actually get good feedback and say, yeah, you did really well, you usually have to push for it. But instead, people will come into us saying, that was amazing, thank you so much for hosting this. And that really spoke volumes about the people that we have in the club as well. Not many people will take time to say, thank you for hosting that. That was great, really appreciate it. And do you know what? 99% of them did. And there's nothing nicer than someone just coming and saying thank you, because it really means the world. It really does. We left the 100 event. The virus was still at the point where it was okay. We were putting measures in place to make it safe so we could get by and keep everyone safe. Then, again, it was the same thing. We had a gap. The season was towards the end, and we said, you know what, we're going to fire another one out. People are asking for it, so we're going to give it. And we've always said, if you ask for something, we will provide it. So we did. We planned the exclusive JDM finale. Last event of the year, as big as we can, just going all out, a bit of a blowout for the end of the season. So we planned that for the 27th of September, I believe it was. That's when we really hit problems. We planned it the first couple of weeks, absolutely fine. Bookings were absolutely flying in. People were so pleased that even though the circumstances were so tricky, we were still going ahead. Because obviously so many shows were forced to cancel because things were just too difficult. And you've got to respect the people that cancelled rather than trying to provide something that didn't go ahead last minute, So thoughts kind of go out to all the other organisers that just weren't able to do it. About a week before the event, we had new rules imposed in the UK on the virus with regards to events. So events were a no-go, essentially. Unless you were a charitable organisation or a limited company, you weren't hosting an event. Fortunately, we were already a limited company by this point. So we did fall into an exemption. At this point, we had probably 150 to 200 people booked. So we were kind of saying, we need to make sure we can go ahead because we've got a lot of pressure to pull this off now. A lot of people have paid good money to come to this show. If we cancel it and it's the finale as well, there is no, we're going to call it off for this month and we're back one after. This is it. If we can't do this, you put your cars away and that's that. And that's really sad. We've got taking temperatures on the way in, using track and trace, hand sanitizing stations, all that sort of stuff, distancing, masks on. So we had everything in place. We were still going ahead. 2 days before the event, it was the Friday. The show was set for the Sunday, and it was the Friday afternoon. I was working on Andy's 350Z, and I got a call from Sam, the landowner, who's a good personal friend as well. And he's not one to get in touch unless there's a big problem or he needs something. He's a busy guy. And he said to me, Connor, we've got a problem. And that's not words I want to hear from anyone, especially not him. If he says he's got a problem, we've got a problem. And he said the marquee had gone up, someone had complained, and the police had been down that day to the event location and said categorically, you can't go ahead. So we tried to fight our corner, and they said, you know what, if there's more than 6 people on site when Sunday rolls around, we're going to shut you down. So obviously panic set in. We tried to sort of reason on the spot, but we just weren't getting through. So we were incredibly concerned because at that point we were 2 days from the event, over 200 cars booked, 200 people booked with about 100 passengers. So there were potentially 300 people all sat at home, that Friday, getting ready to prep the cars the next day. And little did they know that the event was essentially hanging in the balance. At that point, we were looking like we were going to have to call it off, and I was ready to make that call because you've got to let people know sooner rather than later. That evening, I actually rang the police using the non-emergency number, and I said, look, we're trying to host this event. We're compliant with everything we should be, and reading the regulations, again, we're compliant. I don't see a major issue. I said, we are a limited company, so we fall into an exemption. So this lady officer, she was absolutely lovely on the phone. She was great. I couldn't have asked for better. She went away, spoke to someone, said, yeah, you're all good to go. As long as you've got measures in place for the virus, go ahead. So we had a reference number. So if anyone were to turn up on site on the day and have a major issue, we can say, look, we spoke to this person on this day. Here's the number. Give them a call. We'll know we've got permission. We also spoke to the council. So we had permission from the local council, governors, the legal department, local law enforcement. We'd gone over and above. We'd spoken to everyone in power locally to get this to go ahead because we were determined. We know how, I don't want to use the word depressing, but how sad it is when we all have to put our cars away for winter. It's gutting because we've got 5 or 6 months where we all sit at home twiddling our fingers waiting to get them back out in spring. And we just weren't ready for that. You know, it was September. We weren't ready to give up yet. Saturday rolls round. I'm working on Andy's car, getting a new vented wings fitted on the front of it. As far as I'm aware, things are a bit tricky, but we're going ahead. We need to be very cautious, but we're going ahead. I get a call that afternoon while I'm working on Andy's car. Obviously, I'm rushed, trying to get new wings on it. I'm yet to wash them both. I've got all the merchandise to sort. I'm still getting bookings coming through. I've got people asking questions about the show, just as you would any other day, and that is perfectly fine. I get a call from an unknown number. I answer it, and it's the local police governor, the big man at the local police station. Again, really nice, polite guy. He was really good with me on the phone. And he said to me, Connor, I just don't see how this is going to go ahead. And I'll be honest, at that point, the police directly ringing me and saying, I don't know how you're going to do this, my stomach sank because it was just the amount of pressure that I had on me to pull this off, and everyone around me. You know, we even had club members saying, I don't know how you're going to do this. I don't see how you can do this. We're going to get fined. You're going to get fined. You know, there was the idea of this £10,000 fine being thrown around at me on the lead up. You know, the police on the phone said, you're risking a £10,000 fine. And I said, well, that's fine. That's a risk. You know, I said, it's not a risk I'm willing to take because we're not taking that risk. We've fallen into an exemption. So in reality, that was never going to happen. And at no point were we putting anyone in any danger. We were doing more than what pubs in town were doing. But we sort of went backwards and forwards on the phone for 25 minutes, half an hour, not arguing, more debating the points of how it can and can't happen, because I was sort of saying, look, there's much bigger events happening around the country under these circumstances, and they're still going ahead. There was a concourse event in North London on that same weekend. It was a 4-day event. And they were expecting, I think they were expecting 2,000 visitors per day. And I just said, look, I don't understand how this event can go on. They're expecting 8,000 visitors over 4 days. And our event with probably maximum 400 people can't go ahead. I said, that just doesn't add up to me. So it was sort of not so much standing up to them, but creating a bit of a formidable argument and saying, well, if it's a categoric no, you can't, why are these people still able to do it? You know, and it was just sort of a, why are we being penalised, you know? But you've got to understand that they were making events hard to do to try and reduce risk. So it was to look after everyone, you know. There was no malice behind it. It was just a hard time for everyone. I mean, the policeman on the phone even said to me, he said it's so, the words he used were woolly at the moment, the regulations. It's all about interpretation. He said, look, I'm going to look into the regulations because I think as a limited company, you are able to do this. And I said, well, I told the lady on the phone yesterday, we're a limited company, fall into an exemption. But that had not been communicated very well, I don't think. So he said, well, if you are limited, it looks like you can go ahead. And I said, yes, I know we can. We've kind of covered this. And he said, right, let me go away. And I said, look, why don't you meet me at the venue now? I said, because I can tell you what we're going to do and what we're not going to do on the phone all day long. And anyone can do that, and it can be truthful or not. I said, but if you meet me at the venue, I can show you all the regulations we're putting in place, all the precautions we're putting in place to make it safe and comply. I said, I can do nothing more than show you. So we agreed that evening, the evening before the show, the Saturday night at 6 p.m, we would meet at the venue. So we went down there, and I met with the chief of police, and I showed him everything we were doing, and he was perfectly happy. And my stomach was in knots on the way down to the venue, because this was the final hour. You know, people had already prepped their cars for the show, so they're not waiting to prep their cars. They're done. They're going to bed, getting an early night to wake up in the morning. And I was having a meeting with the police, debating whether it could go ahead, and it was absolutely crazy. I've never felt pressure like it before. But again, we were determined. We weren't going to give up until the last person said you cannot do it. You know, we were going to explore every avenue. So we met with them and we got it all cleared up and we got the go-ahead in the end. But yeah, not many people actually know what happened behind that and how much it took to go ahead. And hopefully when people know, you know, they understand and see the limits that we took it to. But it went ahead, everyone was perfectly safe, everyone complied. You know, we said if you're not sort of by your own car, you're gonna have to wear a mask, and everyone did. And I was really impressed by that on a personal level, because I don't like wearing masks, no one does. So to say, yes, you're outside, but can you still wear them, please, was sort of a big ask. And again, credit to the club members, you know, such nice people. They obeyed all of our instructions as much as they may not want to. You know, they understood that for this to carry on, they have to do as we ask, and they did. And for that, we're eternally grateful, because we could have been shut down at any point that day if the police said, look, we told you everyone needs masks on, and they haven't got them, and they did. So everyone understood that it's for their sake. And it was an incredible day. It really was. Again, we had the DJ set up, the merch store was there, huge marquee, big barbecue. We had the off-road track, people paying for rides on electric off-road bike. Aerial Nomad was there doing passenger rides. The Can-Am off-roader doing passenger rides. Again, each show providing things that other people can't, you know, just stepping it up that bit more each time. You know, off-road passenger rides, not many people provide that sort of stuff at a car show. But yeah, the level of cars we had there just blew us away. And that, it was sort of, I think we ended up with about 210 vehicles there, but to see that many vehicles from our club all together, you know, seeing 100 was fantastic, seeing 50 was great, but to see that many, it was borderline scale of another show that we would have gone to in previous years, and it was getting big. And we came away from that thinking, we're really onto something here, you know. And people, again, the feedback was just as good. So even on a large scale, we were still able to pull off the same quality of event. And people loved it, and as did we. It was, you know, those 3 show days were by far the best days I've ever had. You know, they were the biggest things I've ever done in my life. And that sounds so dramatic, but that's how big it is to us. You know, this is huge and a dream to be able to pull these events off for people. So, you know, a huge thank you to the members for allowing us to do this for them. Yes, you come and enjoy it, so it's worth it for you, but it's an honour to put these things on for people. It really is. So obviously, we have called it off for this year now after the finale. It was a huge success, but the weather starts to roll in and things move on. So we're going to be back next year. Show is going to be bigger, better, same quality that you all see and love. We're just going to go bigger and better with it. If you've got anything you want to see at our shows, if you want us to do a show somewhere, let us know. We are looking at moving around the country, but at the minute, we're going to stay where we are just because we have everything we need. We have all the contacts to bring in what we need and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, we've got a few things coming up. We're going to do a couple of track days. We're going to do some dyno days. There's a lot of events that people don't know about that we're planning as well. So just keep us in mind and you will see us very soon.